guys, shalom, shalom. It is Shabbat afternoon, and this has been a weekend that Lili and I got away. I guess it's been about 5 or 6 weeks ago when Kelly and I took a weekend away. Was that the middle of July or was that June?
I think it was July.
Okay, middle of July when Kelly and I had a weekend away. And so Lili and I have had this weekend, and we've had a good time. It's been a lot of fun. Today we got stressed a little bit, right? Or stretched a little bit. We went hiking, and so we did our Torah portion reading this morning and did some study in authority, headship, and family structure, and then made lunch and drove out to where there was supposed to be a trail. And admittedly, the instruction or the information said that it was a poorly marked trail, but we bushwhacked up a creek looking for the falls. Didn't quite get all the way up there, but we managed to cover probably 3 miles plus a lot of exercise, river crossings, creek crossings. She's got a big contusion. I won't show you, but she's got a big contusion on her knee where she slipped one place and hit it on a rock. And I thought that was going to be the end of our walk, but she toughed it out. We actually went further up before we turned around and came back. But a good day. This morning, though, in our Torah portion, any thoughts on today?
I think it was very much out of my comfort zone because I'm used to hiking, but not in a let's say such a poorly marked hike.
Not bushwhacking.
Yes, it was basically just in the middle of the forest. And then there was one thing you said, like, if you want to go to the wilderness, it's not going to be all easy, and that made me think.
There won't be any marked trails.
Yes. So yeah, it's something that made me think also, like how prepared we are for when time comes and you need to be physically apt, but also mentally prepared for a challenging experience in the wilderness, because it's not going to be comfortable.
and I think most human beings are guilty of overestimating their fitness level and underestimating their ability to put up with discomfort. And the combination of those two, once put to real stress, quickly expose weaknesses. And it's one of those things that I think you're right. From our conversation earlier, I think we have to prepare ourselves, and part of that is by intentionally getting out of our comfort zone, intentionally getting into challenging situations, and that sort of thing. So, and I already told Kelly that I have an epic hike planned that we'll have to train for probably early spring next year. Yeah, because in reading up on a bunch of different hikes, we found one here that has about 3,700 feet of elevation gain. It's a lot. About 1,200 meters in elevation gain.
Oh, it's 1,200 meters.
About 1,200 meters in gain.
Oh.
Over out and back, it's actually over 5.5 miles going up, or 5.7 miles going up, because it's 11 and a half round trip. But it's a place that I've been before, to the top of Mount Mitchell, which is the highest point east of the Mississippi. So we'll have to do that. And real quick, we'll share with you right here. This is one of the things I enjoy. One of the things Lili enjoys as well is small breweries or microbrews. And we found the Brevard Brewing Company. This is a Pilsner that they do that's quite good.
Very easy drinking.
So we picked some of that up at the grocery store here when we were figuring out food and that kind of thing. So lots of fun. Anyway, today's Torah portion. Anything stand out to you?
I think the message from today's portion first was God's mercy, but also how he kept the discipline and the judgment with Moshe. So we all feel bad when we read that and feel, oh, poor Moshe, he was almost there and he was not able to cross to the land. But I think even that was part of God's plan. and still he showed Moshe the land. And you also mentioned that he might have even showed more than
Like,
just
yeah, history, yeah. So today's portion was Deuteronomy chapter 3, around verse 20 something, 23, 323 to 712, 711. 323 to 711, and this is Vayetchanan, I think is the name of this portion. So yes, in this portion, Moshe recounts the fact that he will not be able to go into the land, but he does. The Father does give him the opportunity to go up to the top of Mount Pisgah, and see north, south, east, and west. And it talks about places that are too far to see with the naked eye, or with the human eye. From the top of Pisgah, it said that he could see as far as Dan, and could see as far as Zoar, and could see as far as the Mediterranean, the Great Sea to the west. And so the implication, according to Judaism, is that the Most High actually gives him the opportunity to see the history of Israel through history, and that ultimately they will be victorious, but that they will be scattered. The Father promised it. Even in this portion, he says, you will be scattered, right? So I can see that, because we also know that Yeshua went up to the top of a high mountain where he was tempted, and that mountain was on the other side of the Jordan before he was baptized, close to Jericho, right? Which is where he was baptized. When he came down from that tempting, he went and was baptized by Yochanan. So it's very possible from the same mountain that he stood, and yet it says the adversary showed him all the kingdoms of the world from that location. So maybe Moshe saw more than simply saying, yeah, that's a good looking land there. I see it, right? Right.
Sure.
I think the Father may have shown him more. But that's also where the Father then takes him, and he steps into eternity, right?
Yes.
So anything else in today's Torah portion?
Well, there were many times repeating, please make sure that you do the commandments. Please make sure, and the thing is, he keeps repeating, and then he goes through the 10 commandments again, and he's like, make sure you do it, make sure your sons know it, make sure you do it, make sure you do it.
Right.
So it's not like make sure you do it until Jesus comes and then everything is finished.
So there are two of those places that we literally stopped and had a really good discussion, and one of these I love using when I'm talking with non-Torah keepers, right? One of them is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 25, where it says, it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to observe all this commandment before Yahweh our Elohim, just as he commanded us. Moses says, it will be righteousness for you. Now, to hear Christendom today, they say, oh, no, it's unrighteousness if you keep the commandments, because now you're undoing the work of Messiah, and that's not true at all. Otherwise,
Exactly.
if that's true, then we have an Elohim, we have God who waffles. He can't make up his mind. It's righteousness one day, and it's not righteousness the next day, right? And later on, in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 and 5, it says that, before the great and terrible day of the Lord, he said, I'll send you, remember the Torah of Moses, even the statutes and the ordinances.
Yes.
Passover's an ordinance. All of these statutes, there are lots of statutes and ordinances that Christendom says, those are minor. We don't need those anymore. And he says, remember that before the great and terrible day of the Lord. And I will send you Elijah the prophet, and he'll restore the hearts of the fathers to the sons, and the sons to their fathers. And I think that's to the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, right?
And the thing that made me think about Torah and why it was important to keep it, you cannot come to your judgment and say, well, I was following Torah because I read in the Word that we should. So they will not. It would be nonsensical, at least from my point of view, if we get there and he says, oh no, you're doing what I told you, so now you're not righteous. It would make no sense to me.
Right.
And I said, what is what is easier, just to do and then you explain why you did, or to not do and then go there and explain why you didn't want to do it?
Right.
I prefer to do and then, take the risk and say, oh, you didn't have to do all that, but good, okay,
Right.
thanks. Or but then you can say, well,
yeah, but
I didn't
we talked
want
about
to do
another
it.
verse that was related to that, though, right? Right over here in chapter 7, it says, I'll start in verse 7, but we actually want to look at verse 9. He says, Yahweh did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any of the peoples, for you were the fewest of peoples, but because Yahweh loved you and kept the oath which he swore to your forefathers. Yahweh brought you out by a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. And then he says this. He says, know therefore that Yahweh your Elohim, he is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, who keeps covenant and his chesed, his loving kindness, to 1,000th generation, 1,000 generation, with those who love him and keep his commandments. 1,000 generations. And I asked Lili, I said, how long is a generation? I asked Lili, I said, how long is a generation? And her answer was?
40 years.
40 years. Traditionally, we think about 40 years. We got multiple dogs up here now. Traditionally, we think it's about 40 years, okay? But even if it was just 20 years, right? That's really short, but that's a generation could pass, right? Even if it's 20 years, 1,000 generations is going to be 20,000 years, right?
Yes.
So if it's 40 years, you're talking 40,000 years that he keeps covenant. And based on as much information as we have with the age of Scripture, Earth is only 6,000 years old. We're at about the 6,000 year mark now, right?
Yes. We are waiting for the 7th.
So we're a long way from 40,000 years, or even 20,000 years.
Yes.
Right? So if he keeps covenant that long, he can't have done away with this word. He can't have done away with these promises. Right?
Exactly.
So it goes back to 6 verse 25. It will be righteousness for us if we are careful to observe all this commandment before Yahweh our Elohim, just as he commanded. That's the words of Scripture. That's the words of the Most High. It's righteousness.
It's what you like to ask people. Say, when did forever change its meaning?
Yeah. When did forever stop meaning forever? Right? Because we would read it the way some denominations read it, and they would say, it will be righteousness for us if we're careful to observe all this commandment before Yahweh our Elohim until the cross. And then it's not righteousness anymore. Right? No.
And also the other thing that you pointed out is that people cannot see God and live. So Jesus himself, or Yahusha himself, was the one telling us about this.
Yeah.
So he was the Word.
Yeah, Moshe here, I believe, and there are multiple other indicators within this portion that indicate that it's the Memrata Yah, it's Yeshua, Jesus, who is the one communicating with Moshe, and the one who gave the commandments on Mount Sinai, and the one who spoke with the people, and the one who led them in the wilderness. So if those are his commandments, why would he do away with them? Instead, he says, keep my commandments, right? So, yeah. So that's some thoughts from this Torah portion. That this is, I told Lili, and Kelly knows this as well, but I told Lili, I said, this is my favorite law portion. Deuteronomy,
Yes.
and actually it's this one and the next one. Deuteronomy chapters 3 through 12 are my favorite law portions. And then my favorite history prophecy portions are the Joseph portions, the last probably 4 portions in the book of Genesis, starting in about chapter 44. Well, it might be earlier than that. 43 or 44, right along in there. And the Joseph portions, 3 or 4 Joseph portions that I love. So, yeah, good stuff. Anything else?
I think that was the main part we discussed.
So we just kind of wanted to share some thoughts. I wanted you to have a little update on what we're doing I think we're going to be eating leftovers this evening, kind of cleaning up what's left over. And tomorrow we're headed back to back home, and can't wait to see Kelly. We can't wait to be back with the family. We've had a great time, but it's time to be back together and enjoy being back together and all that good stuff. So, good stuff. We love you guys. For King and Kingdom,
we bid you shalom.